Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. A few months ago, my sister found out that our mom had given a baby up for adoption when she was a teenager. She told me and went to confront Mom about never saying anything, but Mom shut down. Our dad told us that Mom had been taken advantage of by someone in her family for years, and the pregnancy was a result of that. She wanted a termination, but the family prevented her from getting one. They wanted her to raise the baby, but she didn't even want to touch her, and refused all contact in the hospital, and said she wanted the baby to be adopted out. Her family tried to stop it, but Mom threatened to reveal who the father was if they made her keep the baby. She was kicked out not long after, and Mom was only 14 when all this happened, so it was deeply traumatic for her and something she still doesn't like talking about. She only told Dad once, and they never talked about it again. That's why Dad told us. My sister told her she was in touch with the person Mom gave up for adoption, that this woman wanted to meet her and ask questions and wanted to meet us all. Mom said she wouldn't meet this woman and would not answer questions. My sister didn't listen, and she told this woman that Mom had agreed to meet her. She actually went beyond that and lied and promised that we all wanted her to be a part of the family as a daughter and sister, and that Mom had loved and missed her and thought about her every single day. Then she brought her to the house during a family dinner. Mom fell apart when she realized and locked herself in her bedroom. Dad told sister she had to leave and to take her guest with her. Dad went to check on Mom while I made sure my sister actually left. My sister wanted me to leave with them and go to lunch, and that's when I found out about her promise for a relationship with everyone. I told my sister I wasn't going, and she left super pissed at me and at her parents. My mom isn't talking to my sister right now. My dad told my sister she had no right to pull the stunt she did, and my sister keeps trying to pretend I'm on her side when I'm not. She keeps talking about how hurt the woman was that we didn't want to meet and know her, and that she was treated like a criminal when she isn't to blame for how she was conceived. I told my sister she had no right to make promises on our behalf, and I said all hurt feelings are her fault for lying in the first place. My sister said it should be how we feel, and I said it's not. I said the fact is it'll never be. I said she can have a relationship with her if she wants, but she can't force Mom into it after everything Mom went through. Am I the a-hole? OP is absolutely not the a-hole here. OP's sister crossed significant boundaries by lying to the adopted woman and promising relationships and feelings that weren't hers to give. OP's mom experienced profound trauma at an incredibly young age, and OP's sister ignored this completely by prioritizing her own desire to create an idealized family reunion. OP's mom's feelings and boundaries deserve respect, especially given the painful circumstances surrounding the adoption. While OP's adopted sibling isn't at fault for her conception or adoption, it's also true that OP's mother isn't obligated to revisit her trauma or establish a relationship. OP's sister's actions didn't just hurt OP's mom. She also unfairly set up adopted sibling for disappointment by creating expectations based on lies. OP has done nothing wrong by standing up for her mother's boundaries and calling out her sister's actions. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. I can't help but feel awful after reading this. Your poor mother was ambushed and traumatized all over again. Please talk to your dad to get her some therapy and go low contact with your sister. Not the a-hole. Your sister made promises on your behalf without your knowledge or consent. She is the a-hole, and everything that happens to her as a result of it is her own damn fault. If she can't admit that, it might be time to go low contact for some time. Not the a-hole. Oh my God, your sister. How disrespectful. I don't even know you, and I'm so angry at your sister right now. Disrespectful, no compassion, liar, clueless, egocentric, so effing obvious. How could she have done this to your mother after your father told you the story? I think I would have hit her, and I'm so against violence. I, female 16, live with my dad and stepmom. I have two older stepbrothers, 17 and 19, and a younger half-sister. My mom isn't in my life, but her parents are. My grandparents love me very much and have always helped me out. My stepmother, however, seems to think that anything I get from them is for the household. I got a PS4 for Christmas one year, and it stays in the living room so everyone can play on it. I get a laptop for school, and I have to let other people use it for their classes. I started getting sick of this, so I asked my grandma to please just keep gifts at their house for when I visit. They are happy to keep my stuff in my mom's old room, and I like having a place where I can have peace and quiet. When I turned 16, my grandparents gave me my grandmother's old car. She can't drive anymore, and it's a good, reliable car. Literally driven by an old lady to get groceries and go to church. When my stepmom heard about it, she immediately started saying I had to share with my stepbrothers because they also needed a car. I talked to my grandfather about it, and he told me what we were going to do. He called my two uncles, and they helped us paint the car pink, bright pink. I love it. It is easy to spot in a parking lot, and I don't think anyone will ever steal it. It is still registered to my grandfather, but I'm in the insurance. I use it to go to work and run errands. I have no problem driving my stepbrothers and my little sister around to help out. The boys, however, complained to their mom that they were embarrassed to be seen driving my car. They want to paint it black. I said no, I like the color. My grandparents told my dad that if my car went missing, they would report it stolen. Now my stepbrothers are complaining that I did it on purpose, so they would not use it. Well, yeah, that was the point. But they call me an entitled little princess because my grandparents helped me and not them. My dad says I should give in and paint it black, or something else boring so the boys can use it too. I don't want to share. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The whole point was that your grandparents are helping you. Otherwise, they would have given it to your whole family. Perhaps it might be worth considering whether you could live with your grandparents and not have this problem. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your dad hasn't blended families, but has moved on to his new one. Too bad you can't just move in with the grandparents. They sound like much better guardians for you. Also, keep the car pink. And this is now how all gifts should be delivered, in a form or fashion that repels the leeches. I mean step-siblings. Not the a-hole. And it would seem that your stepbrothers and stepmother don't actually know what entitled means. Otherwise, how could they possibly think that your father's former in-laws owe your father's current stepchildren anything? Are your stepbrothers forced to share stuff their father and his family gives them? And what about your stepmother's parents? Do they treat you anywhere near the way they treat their biological grandchildren? I'm going to hazard a guess that no is the answer to both of these questions, and your father should be ashamed of himself. I, 17 female, usually stay at my father's during the weekdays for school after spending weekends with my biological mother and stepdad. My parents divorced when I was 12 years old. My mom married my stepdad when I was 14, and my dad just married my stepmom early last year. My stepmom and her 16-year-old daughter moved into my father's home about 3 weeks before their wedding. Anyways, my bio mom cash-apped me some money. I was sitting in my room when I called her to thank her for the money, and apparently, my stepsister heard my conversation. She asked me to share, and I told her no, since it wasn't even much anyway. She got upset and stormed off. A few minutes later, my stepmom came into my room and demanded that I give my stepsister some of my money. I told her no, and that it was given to me by my true mother. I also said that how's about she give her daughter some money since she's the mother and cares so much about her child not having money. She told me that I need to learn how to stop being selfish and share. I told her I don't have to share a darn thing. She threatened to tell my father, so I flipped her off and she left my room upset. I don't get along with my stepmom as well as my stepsister. Since these two came into our lives, they've done nothing but tried to give me the short end of the stick. One time, my stepsister tried to make my dad spend some of my school's field trip money on a set of $40 headphones, since her other ones broke. Luckily, I convinced him not to do it. Of course, she was mad. Then there was this time my stepmom got mad at my dad for taking me to my father-daughter dance, instead of staying at home to spend time with her. She was pissed off about that. But you guys tell me if I'm the a-hole or not about the recent situation. It's literally your money from your mom. It's weird that stepmom even suggested you share some of it. Not the a-hole. Neither of them are entitled to anything from you, or your dad for that matter. Stepsis has bio parents to pay for her stuff. Next time the stepmonster threatens to tell your father, call her out and do it yourself, and tell your bio mother. Then let the adults fight over it. Not the a-hole. Next time this happens with your stepmom, offer to call your mom and put her on speakerphone. Tell her about the situation and let your mother tell your stepmom no. You shouldn't be caught in the middle. My wife and I have 3 daughters, including Sally and Jane. Jane dated Charlie for over a year before she found out he and Sally were together. Of course, no one in our family was impressed with this, and I've made it clear I don't support Charlie and Sally's relationship because of what they did to Jane. They both distanced themselves a bit from us after that. This all happened around 6 years ago. Jane married John at the start of the year, and they welcomed a baby a few months ago. I told all 3 of my girls previously if they get married, I'll contribute XYZ amount to their weddings. I did so for Jane's, and they covered the rest. Charlie and Sally are still together and engaged. I've offered the same XYZ amount to their wedding, but that's the extent of my involvement. I won't be walking her down the aisle. Sally is upset, saying that we're belittling their long-term relationship, and I'm holding something that happened years ago over her head. Edits for extra information, people are asking. Sally is 31 and Jane is 29. Jane and Charlie were 23 when this happened. Some are also asking why Jane invited Sally to her wedding. It's because my wife said she probably should, as it's a big event. I don't think Jane expected them to come by, but they did. Me and my wife are attending the wedding, but Jane and my youngest are not. We went to a family event a couple years ago when Jane and John were dating, and they were there, and so was Sally. I didn't find out about this until much later, but apparently, Sally had said some inappropriate things to John, and he called her a B, which created issues between John and Sally too. Edit 2. A lot of people are asking what Sally said to John. It was pretty vulgar from what I heard. Something along the lines of touching her. I'm sure you can fill in the rest. Also received some comments and messages about more background information. Charlie and Jane went to the same college. Sally met Charlie through Jane. To my knowledge, Charlie and Sally haven't apologized to Jane. When the issue between Sally and John happened, Sally and Charlie were going through a rough phase after the company Charlie worked for downsized. My wife asked her why she said these things to John, and she said she wasn't thinking straight with her and Charlie's situation and felt upset. As I mentioned, both Sally and Charlie distanced themselves from us after everything came to light and kept minimal contact. They started regular contact again when Charlie was looking for a new job, and then again during their rough phase. Not the a-hole. Sally is facing the long-term consequences of her own actions. Her actions affected everyone, not just Jane. Not the a-hole. Sally knew what she was doing when she had an affair with her sister's boyfriend. She made her choice. Despite her actions, you're upholding your promise from years ago to provide X amount of funding to the wedding, but you are not required to walk her down the aisle. Not the a-hole. It wasn't something that happened years ago. It's still happening today. There's something so wrong and just plain dumb about sleeping with your sibling's partner while they're still together, and then continuing that relationship. Because obviously, the guy who cheated on your sister with you is definitely someone you can trust with lifelong monogamy. Totally. Also, the fact you said in a comment Sally never apologized to Jane, and they basically blamed Jane for not satisfying Charlie. I know Sally is your daughter, but ew. My son Henry divorced his wife Rachel a year ago. Their divorce wasn't exactly messy, but it wasn't easy either. I stay in contact with Rachel for my granddaughter's sake. My granddaughter is 9 years old, and Rachel also has another daughter, Amy, 3 years older than my granddaughter, who is not my son's child. She was from a past relationship Rachel had. Now, the thing is, Amy grew up calling me grandpa for pretty much her whole life. I treated her exactly the same as I did my biological granddaughter. I would always take candy for both of them, give them both a little bit of pocket money. I hugged and loved, and still do, Amy as much as I do my granddaughter. As far as I'm aware, she's my second granddaughter. When my son and his wife divorced, I stayed in contact with his now ex-wife to contact my granddaughter, and Amy has her own mobile phone. I also have her phone number and stay in contact with her occasionally. She still calls me grandma as well. I didn't think this would be a problem. However, last week when it was Amy's birthday, I gave Rachel some money to buy her a present from me. She was thankful, bought her a gift, wrapped it, and sent me a picture of her opening it. Later that day, my son came around to visit me and my phone rang. It was Amy calling to thank me for her birthday present. My son told me that he found it inappropriate for me to be talking to his ex-wife and her daughter when she's not my granddaughter. He said I have absolutely no reason to be in contact with either of them, as I see my biological granddaughter regularly, and that she's the only one who is family. So his ex-wife and Amy, who are no longer family, have no reason for me to be in contact with them. I disagree, as I only speak to Rachel about my granddaughter, and I speak to Amy, as for the last 10 years, I've been treating her exactly the same as my biological granddaughter. I feel it would be unfair now to no longer have contact with her after so long. Am I the a-hole for staying in contact with them both? I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I never discuss my son with either of them. I just simply check in and see how they are. Not the a-hole. He has been in the girl's life for 10 years, and he's not staying in touch and doesn't seem to care or worry about her. That should be the issue here. Be careful he doesn't decide to not let you see your other granddaughter, just because he doesn't agree with you. Not the a-hole. You are doing grandparenting right. A relationship breakdown between parents doesn't need to splinter the entire family. With a 9-year-old granddaughter, I'm guessing that you have been a grandmother to Amy for 10 years. That's a whole lot of time to form a bond that goes beyond a casual relationship. Your son is being selfish, thinking that his anger towards his ex is more important than your love for the children. He cannot tell you to change your priorities. I understand that your son is hurting, but you are only demonstrating love for the kids. Not the a-hole in the slightest. You've been a part of her life for at least the last 9 years. You're her grandma, and a divorce shouldn't change that. Imagine how crushed she would have been if you just disregarded her existence after the divorce. I, 31 male, recently had a very sudden and unexpected breakup with my ex, 23 female, of 1.5 years. To give you some background, we moved to the other side of the country together to start a fresh life at the start of the year, getting new jobs and to begin building our happily ever after. In my view of our relationship, we were progressing steadily, discussing marriage, even very close to engagement. We were sending each other ring designs, locations, and discussing how we would do it. We had plans to get engaged in July or August. Going back to June, and she approaches me whilst I'm in bed one morning and said, "I'm thinking of moving out." In fact, she wasn't thinking. She had already organized it. She packed her things and was gone within 24 hours. What I then discovered after was that she was at work organizing moving out at exactly the same time that she had been coming home to me to discuss our future and our engagement plans. We had been looking at rings only 3 days before she left. She had been in discussion with a work colleague for weeks. After some very small back and forth and her not contacting me for 3 days, I attempted to get her to talk to me, and she broke up with me over a text, saying that she had been feeling this way for months and that she had really tried to make us work despite never communicating her feelings or attempting any changes or even doing anything. She essentially had been coming home and feigning love and leading me on. She then began jumping into dating sites just over a week later and kept justifying it because she felt this way for a long time. I had been cheated on in my previous relationship, and this stung me big time. Fast forward to today. I discover my sister, 34 female, has been going out on breakfast dates with my ex, and my parents even called her to wish her well on her birthday. I called my sister out on this, saying after how my ex has treated me over our breakup, that it is inappropriate for them to be hanging out, especially after everything we have been through to get my mental health back to a steady state. I first discussed this with several friends, and everyone so far has agreed that after the way our relationship ended and the way she did it, it would be inappropriate for my family to be attempting friendships with her. My friend's main reasoning being it was a short relationship, no kids, weren't married, no ties, just a painful ending, and them attempting to be friends only opens very recent wounds for me. Only my family defends what she has done and thinks remaining in contact with her is okay. And anyone that I have so far discussed it with, work colleagues, friends, old friends that were originally friends with my ex, has all had raised eyebrows and said this isn't right. So please tell me, am I the a-hole for telling my family that they should not be contacting or going out with my ex? Not the a-hole. What a devastating thing to do to someone. She clearly told your family everything she had been feeling, since they don't seem surprised or shocked. She should have been talking to you. Sounds like you have multiple people to be cutting contact with. Family is only family when they act like family. I feel like something is missing here. You guys have a pretty big age gap. You say things were progressing steadily, which just sounds like you were pushing it. Did she move back to where you guys came from? Seeing as there are breakfast dates with your sister now. I have a feeling you basically love-bombed someone in a very different stage of life. You even call her immature. Yeah, of course. A 23-year-old is going to be immature. So you're the a-hole. It's not your business who your family speaks to if they're not rubbing it in your nose. As for the breakup, what exactly would the alternative have been? She obviously didn't want to get married to you. How should she have broken up with you? A slow cooling down? First break off the engagement and only then break up? Sounds like you just wanted a chance to convince her not to go. Aside from breaking up with you suddenly, she didn't do anything wrong for you to demand your family cease communication. They can continue speaking to her, but just shouldn't discuss it with you. Sounds like you may be controlling both parties.